Hey everyone, it's Travis with Coyote Moon. A lot of you may have landed on this video today because you have questions about your existing Squarespace website and you want to understand a couple of things. The first one is, should I move from version 7.0 to version 7.1? The second one might be, is it worthwhile? Meaning, is it a good decision in my particular instance? And the third is, what are the real advantages of migrating my site? I'm already on the existing 7.0 platform. My site is functioning well. I'm getting a ton of traffic. What's the point? So in today's video, I want to be as transparent as possible in uncovering some of the advantages and perhaps some of the disadvantages of migrating from the older version, which is Squarespace 7.1, to the newer version, which is Squarespace 7.1. So without further ado, let's dive in. The first thing that I want to showcase here is this is the back end of a Squarespace 7.0 website. This is a page that has not been converted to the new platform layout, which is Fluid Engine. 7.1 is based on Fluid Engine, which is a drag and drop grid-based system with a lot more customizations and flexibility to really flex your design skills without the use of code. Things like animations, section dividers are all baked into the new version of Squarespace 7.1. So the first thing I want to do is tell a little backstory. So I partnered with a client on a 7.0 to 7.1 migration. She had a website that had a ton of content, to the tune of thousands of words, likely in the 70 to 100 page range total website content. But the reason that she wanted to continue using the same content and retaining all of the same SEO settings is because she had developed a lot of SEO value over the years. So we wanted to make sure that we were keeping intact things like SEO titles, SEO descriptions, URL slugs, all of the keywords that are baked into the headings, all of the content of any individual page that has its own keyword and keyword phrase that we're ranking for, right? So these are all examples of a situation where it would actually be a good idea to keep your site as is, and then basically migrate from version 7.0, which you're looking at here, to version 7.1. So a lot of things happen when you make that move from 7.0 to 7.1. So I just want to give a high-level overview. So basically what happens is you click a button, a migration button. It doesn't affect any of your current website's data, all of your site structure, all of the information, all of the SEO, orders, sales, customer data, members, domains, subscriptions, those all remain intact. One thing to keep in mind is that this tool is currently in beta, and it has been in beta for about a month. It has been released to the general public, whereas before only Squarespace Circle members, designers like myself, had access to it. That's no longer the case. So if you're watching this video and you really feel compelled to click that migrate tool within your website, it is available for any plan: personal, business, commerce basic, commerce advanced. So you can access from the back end of your Squarespace website. If you want a step-by-step instructional video on how to do that, just go to support.squarespace.com, their KB guide, their knowledge base, and just type in the keywords moving from Squarespace 7.0 to version 7.1. And that is going to give you a comprehensive guide, including reasons why you should or shouldn't update it, what ports over, what migrates over, and what doesn't. And then as well as some highlights on what happens before you begin. So I'm going to give an abridged version of that just because I think it's super useful for anybody that's in this predicament of trying to decide whether or not the move from 7.0 to 7.1 is a good decision. So bear with me. So, one thing to keep in mind, and I think the most important thing to keep in mind, is that once you click publish on this new 7.1 site, that is a permanent change, meaning you are no longer able to revert back to your old 7.0 website. As a Squarespace Circle member, I have access to duplicate websites for my clients. So what I always do is that when I am in conversation with somebody that wants to make this migration, I will actually duplicate their 7.0 site, which gives me a direct copy of their old website for 6 months. So if we ever need to go back and refer to a specific page or a piece of content that perhaps we've cut from the new version, we've actually still got a copy of that. So that's a really nice feature. Also something that is, I think, kind of an advantage, a strategic advantage of being a Squarespace Circle member, is that I can allow my clients the ability to copy their old websites so that they can have duplicate versions if they ever need to refer to those. So it's a permanent change, first and foremost, using the migration tool. Your site is certainly going to look different after you make the update. Some of the formatting gets thrown off, and that's just the nature of the migration tool itself. So, for example, if we look at this specific website, many of you might see some familiar features here on the page. The first one being this upgrade tool. So if you've used a 7.0 section on a 7.1 website, you'll actually see this upgrade. Basically what the upgrade means when you hover over it is it says upgrade to Fluid Engine, which is 7.1, the latest drag and drop editor I just mentioned. And this grants you access, when you click upgrade, this grants you access to the full drag and drop control of Fluid Engine. Once saved, sections made with Fluid Engine can't be converted back to the classic editor. So again, just like when you click the migration tool and click publish from 7.0 to 7.1, these sections are also a permanent change. So when you click upgrade, there's no going back. There's no revert button here. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. So you want to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row before you make this change. One of the things that I really like to do is I like to duplicate a page. So I'll actually go in, and since this is a really content heavy page, which is good because this particular client is actually ranking really high for the keywords and keyword phrases she has on any given page. But since it's so content heavy and there's a lot of images, I actually just duplicate the page. I go into the not linked navigation where that copy was created, and then I manipulate it. And the first thing I do is I click upgrade on all of these sections, right? Upgrade, upgrade. So now those two sections are on the Fluid Engine editor. And the way that you can tell is by pressing G, and you'll see the grid pull up. And obviously you'll see the sections, and everything about the editing experience is going to be different from 7.0 to 7.1. I'm going to exit that. Okay. So you'll see that there's these little plus icons. These are insert points. This is from the old platform version 7.1. When you click upgrade, those plus icons go away. You're no longer building your pages or your sections or your site using insert points. You're building them using sections. So that's a permanent update when you make that. The site may look different after you update it. Sometimes the formatting, the fonts, the location of where your text blocks and image blocks are in relation to one another can be thrown off. So this is, again, why it's super important to ask yourself the right questions before you make this move. Are you a website with a ton of content, a ton of blog posts? Does your website get thousands upon thousands of website views per day, per week, per month? Whatever it is your metric is the SEO value of your website supersede the ability to recreate the content within the new platform? So that's a big one. If you're a website with 100 pages and you've had your site since 2014 on Squarespace 7.0, you're not really even getting any traffic, if any at all, to a lot of those pages. And your vision and goals for the migration and the site redesign on the new platform are simply to consolidate, make a much better, design aesthetic and experience for your users. You're looking to add flair, animation, sections, section dividers, background video, a lot of things that maybe perhaps weren't available on 7.0, and you're looking to consolidate, make updates, but you aren't worried about the content, the SEO, all of that. Then it likely is a good decision to just recreate the site on 7.1 versus using the migration tool. Because as you can see, the migration tool is going to keep all of the same existing content, right? So if you're in a position and you're asking yourself, hey, I don't care, I'm getting maybe like 100 website visits per month. It's not about the content. I'm looking to like downgrade, consolidate, make things much more user-friendly, boost my color palette, my fonts, the animations, my media library, whatever it might be. It might be a better decision actually to scrap the migrate idea and go with just a pure rebuild. You can always copy and paste any content you have from your existing site into a new page, into a new section, into a new template. For people that are concerned about retaining their SEO, this is a really great route to use the migration tool. So you definitely want to set aside time to preview the changes. So for example, if I were just to land on this site and I could see that, why is the formatting off in a couple areas? And I can just kind of see the way that those changes have been made in the new platform version. It's a good idea to go through page by page to look and see how that's affected once you make that migration. So before you update your site, you can preview how it will appear in 7.1 and make design changes. If your website has a ton of pages, this may take a significant amount of time. So here's the big question. Should I update from version 7.0 to 7.1? So Squarespace version 7.1 is the most recent platform version. Fluid Engine, the drag and drop editor, was rolled out, I think, a couple years ago. So it's not brand new, but it is, the latest version of the platform. It's got a ton of powerful new features, added flexibility. We talked about site-wide animation, auto layouts, which lets you choose, quickly choose different sections that are applicable to whatever, content type you're looking to add to any page. Fluid Engine we talked about, that's only available on 7.1. So any website can now that's on 7.1 can now migrate to 7.0 to 7.1. But the update tool is especially helpful for sites that have a ton of content, a ton of orders, settings, domains. If you really want to retain all that information, then I would recommend using 7.1. Another thing to keep in mind is that not all features that were available on 7.0 are available on 7.1. Now, obviously, Squarespace has tried to create an environment and an ecosystem where the new features are better than the old, but there's certainly always instances and caveats and anomalies where a website designer, a business owner, anyone, DIY, do-it-yourself website builder is going to want, one of the old features. And if that's the case, I recommend just doing Google searches because oftentimes there are widgets and plugins. Ghost Plugins is one of the major ones that I use. Also, Will Myers, willmyers.com. He's got a bunch of Squarespace platform-specific plugins that he's built out for specific use cases that help you elevate your Squarespace design. So all that is to say, if there is a feature that was available on 7.0 but isn't available on 7.1, do a Google search, try to find a plugin shop. It's likely that there's a plugin that's super affordable. I'm talking under $20, maybe $40 max, that will get you what you want as far as functionality. So before you begin the migration process, it's good to keep in mind that there's a preparation involved. So you're going to want to make sure, first and foremost, that you're on the Brine template family. So for example, if you're using an old Squarespace 7.0 template that's on Pacific or Wexley or Avenue, you're going to have to actually switch to Brine or Bedford. Brine, Bedford, those are synonymous. The template family, Brine family, in order to make that migration happen. So that's going to change the whole layout of your existing site. So again, timing, process, the whole thought and workflow behind it has to be pretty dialed before you make this decision. Because if you're on a template that isn't Bedford or Brine, you're going to have to switch it to that. So that's going to throw the layoff off of your existing 7.0 site. So there's a lot of steps and considerations here. If you're not too worried about that, typically the migration itself happens pretty quickly. If you've got a site that's 10 pages, I would say once you click migrate within the Squarespace editor, it might only take 10 minutes for that to port over to the Squarespace 7.1 new platform. And at that point, then you've got your whole site laid out on 7.1 on the Brine or the Bedford template family. And it might look a little different. It might take you a little time. But you can always, like I said, you can duplicate pages and make updates. And then again, your existing live site on the Brine template family is still going to be live to all your website visitors. So that isn't going to change until you click publish. So simply clicking the migration tool is going to recreate your site on the 7.1 platform, but it's not actually published to the web until you click the publish button. Once you click the publish button, then 7.1 is accessible to all your website visitors. If you have a lot of custom code and you're using developer mode, none of that code is going to port over to 7.1. There's no CSS, which is Cascadia styling sheets. There's no CSS or code injection or any of that migrates from 7.0 to 7.1. So if your website's super custom, it's got a ton of CSS, and you would likely need to rebuild all of that anyways, and you're not concerned about the SEO value of retaining your site's existing content and all of that stuff and all of the SEO settings, then again, this is another scenario where it might make more sense to actually rebuild on 7.1 versus trying to use the migration tool and then going in and having to manually update all of that code anyway. So the update process is pretty straightforward. In the home menu, you're going to see a website panel design option. Once you click design, then click update to version 7.1. The process starts. Preview your site in 7.1 once it ports over. Let's see. And then at a certain point, whenever you're ready, when you're done with all of those design updates, then that's when you're going to click publish. So again, I hope this tutorial was helpful. If you guys have any questions about the migration process, I'm happy to answer those. I have done a couple within the last few months, so I have experience with that. And honestly, I will give you the most straight away, transparent answer based on your current situation. So to recap, it's a good decision depending on where you're at. If you're content heavy and you want to retain all your SEO settings and all of your content because you don't want any sort of blip in your site traffic, go with the migration tool. If you're not concerned with that and you've got 100 pages and you're trying to downgrade to 15 to make a much better user experience, and all you're really concerned with is just really creating a good foot forward for the user, better design, updated workflow, etc., then it's probably a better decision to actually just recreate the site on 7.1 versus using the migration tool. Okay, I'm Travis with Coyote Moon. I build beautiful websites for business types from SMBs all the way to Fortune 50 companies. I'm based in Bend, Oregon. I love to help. I love to chat shop. So if you have any questions, let me know. Thanks.